10 worst Australian rugby moments ever. Australian rugby has given us moments of absolute brilliance, but let's be real, it's also served up some of the most dramatic disasters. You know the type. When the try line is right there, the crowd is on their feet, and then, boom! A fumble so bad it belongs in a comedy sketch, a referee decision that sparks nationwide outrage, or just pure soul-crushing bad luck. But trust us, what you're about to witness is next-level embarrassment. These are the 10 most jaw-dropping, facepalm-worthy Aussie rugby fails ever. Brace yourself, it's going to be painful. And hey, if you survive the second-hand embarrassment, don't forget to like and subscribe. The Australian national rugby team, the Wallabies, is one of the most storied teams in the sport. With 2 Rugby World Cup victories and a legacy of legendary players, they've earned their place among rugby's elite. But even the greatest teams have their off days, or in some cases their off decades. Fans have watched in frustration as the Wallabies have struggled to maintain their dominance in recent years. From missed opportunities to outright blunders, the team has faced its fair share of criticism. Now let's get right into these failed tries. 10. Kurtley Beale's kick fail, 2013 versus Lions. With the game hanging in the balance, the Wallabies found themselves trailing 21-23 in the dying moments of the first test against the British and Irish Lions. It all came down to Kurtley Beale. Given a second opportunity to seal victory with a long-range penalty, the stage was set for a dramatic finish, and Beale had already made an impact after coming off the bench. The comeback kid, as many called him, had a chance to etch his name into Wallabies folklore. But as Beale took his kick, he lost his footing on the worn-down turf, slipping just as he made contact. The kick sailed wide and rolled over the dead ball line, crushing Australia's hopes in an instant. 2 missed penalty kicks had cost Australia dearly. The Lions, who had fought hard all game, escaped with a narrow win, leaving the Wallabies to curse their missed chances. Wonder how early Kurtley Beale's rugby journey took off. Would you believe that by the age of 15, Beale was already training with the NSW Waratahs? By 16, he had signed with them, and at just 17, he attended his first Wallabies training camp. His talent was evident from his school days at St Joseph's College, where he played in the first 15 for 3 years and captained both Joey's and the Australian schoolboys team in 2006, a rugby prodigy in every sense. 9. Will Genia's kicking nightmare 2013 versus England. At Twickenham in November 2013, Wallabies scrum half Will Genia endured a game he would rather forget. A player often praised for his composure and skill, Genia found himself struggling against relentless English pressure. From the start, his game was off, with mistimed clearance and misplaced box kicks putting Australia on the back foot. But the worst was yet to come. As the Wallabies desperately tried to up their lead, Genia found himself setting up for another kick. The English defence, sensing this charge down the kick as soon as it was released, the ball came back straight into English hands. For a player who had so often been Australia's general on the field, this was a rare off night. 8. The Bledisloe drought. For Australian rugby fans, few things have been as painful as the Wallabies' inability to reclaim the Bledisloe Cup since 2003. Once one of the fiercest rivalries in world rugby, the Bledisloe has been firmly in New Zealand's grip for over 2 decades, with the Wallabies failing to mount a serious challenge. There were fleeting moments of hope, like in 2007, 2015 and 2019, when Australia managed to win the first test, only to be comprehensively outplayed in the decisive matches, particularly at Eden Park, where the Wallabies have not won since 1986. This prolonged dominance by the All Blacks symbolises the struggles of Australian rugby, with each failed attempt deepening the frustration of Wallabies fans. The 20-year drought stands as one of the most bitter chapters in Australia's rugby history. 7. Hooper's disallowed try after controversial clean-out, 2021 versus Scotland. What seemed like a crucial try for Australia against Scotland quickly turned into disappointment as Michael Hooper's score was ruled out due to a controversial clean-out. With the Wallabies on the attack, Hooper made a decisive move, darting towards the line and reaching out to ground the ball. The celebrations, however, were cut short. Upon review, the referee's attention shifted to Alan Alalatoa's involvement in the build-up. His clean-out was deemed dangerous, making direct contact with the head of a Scottish player. The outcome was costly. Hooper's try was disallowed and Alalatoa was shown a yellow card. What could have been a turning point for Australia instead became a momentum swing in Scotland's favour, adding to the Wallabies' frustration in a hard-fought contest. 6. Quade Cooper's costly kick, 2011 versus New Zealand. With the score locked at 0-0 in the 13th minute, Quade Cooper attempted a kick deep in Australia's half, hoping to relieve pressure against the All Blacks. But instead of finding touch or a teammate, his kick went straight into the hands of a waiting New Zealand player, immediately putting the Wallabies on the back foot. The mistake handed the All Blacks prime attacking position, and they wasted no time in capitalising on the error. For Cooper, it was a moment to forget in a match where every decision mattered. And for Australia, it was an early setback that set the tone for a tough contest against their fierce rivals. Quade Cooper's on-field aggression has often stirred controversy. Curious to know more? One of the most infamous incidents came during the 2011 Tri-Nations when he sparked a brawl by kneeing New Zealand captain Richie McCaw, cementing his reputation as a polarising figure among fans and opponents alike. But could his aggression be linked to his other passion, which is boxing? Cooper made his professional boxing debut in 2013 and has balanced the sport alongside his rugby career. Maybe that fighting spirit carried over to the field. What do you think? 5. Nick White's failed attack, 2019 versus Wales. Trailing 8-26 in the 45th minute against Wales, Australia was desperate for a breakthrough. The Wallabies built a promising attack, with James O'Connor setting up the play before the ball moved through the hands of several key players. A well-timed inside pass threatened to break through the Welsh defence as Australia edged closer to the try line. With just metres to go, the Wallabies pressed forward relentlessly. The pressure was on as the ball cycled back to Nick White, who shaped a pass but opted for a dummy instead. However, the Welsh defence held firm, reading the play perfectly and shutting down the opportunity. The promising attack fizzled out, leaving Australia still chasing the game in a high-stakes World Cup clash. 4. 2003 World Cup final versus England. The 2003 Rugby World Cup final was a moment of immense pride and expectation for Australia. Playing on home soil in front of 83,000 fans in Sydney, the Wallabies had battled their way through the tournament, pulling off remarkable victories, including a legendary semi-final win over the All Blacks. But all the hope and momentum came crashing down in extra time. With the match locked at 17 and the clock winding down, England's Johnny Wilkinson produced a drop goal. The Wallabies could only watch as Wilkinson struck the ball cleanly with his weaker right foot, sending it sailing through the posts. The dream was over. England had won their first ever Rugby World Cup, and Australian hearts were left shattered. A golden opportunity on home soil had slipped away in the most agonising fashion. 3. Bernard Foley's costly delay, 2022, Bledisloe Cup versus New Zealand. The Bledisloe Cup clash in Melbourne was shaping up to be a Wallabies classic. Australia had fought back from a massive deficit against the All Blacks and was on the verge of a stunning victory. With just seconds left on the clock and a 37-34 lead, all Bernard Foley had to do was kick the ball into touch and secure the win. But in a shocking twist, Foley took too long to take the kick. The referee, Mathieu Reynal, made the unprecedented call to penalise him for time wasting, handing possession back to New Zealand. The All Blacks wasted no time, capitalising on the blunder and scoring a last-gasp try to steal the match 39-37. The Wallabies and their fans were left in disbelief. A historic comeback had been undone by an agonising decision, and Australian rugby was left with one of its most frustrating what-if moments. 2. Super Rugby streak, 2016 to 2018. While the Wallabies have had their share of heartbreaks, Australian rugby as a whole suffered one of its most humiliating periods between 2016 and 2018. During this time, Australian Super Rugby teams endured a staggering 40-game losing streak against New Zealand sides. The low point of this nightmare came when the Hurricanes demolished the Melbourne Rebels 71-6, a result that showcased the widening gap between Australian and Kiwi rugby. This bleak era followed the Wallabies' strong 2015 Rugby World Cup campaign, where they reached the final against the All Blacks. Yet, instead of building on that momentum, Australian rugby spiralled into a period of despair, with Super Rugby's struggles reflecting the Wallabies' own inconsistencies on the international stage. 1. Michael Hooper's solo run 2021 versus New Zealand. With Australia trailing 21-8 in the 35th minute, Michael Hooper produced a moment of individual brilliance that nearly turned the tide against the All Blacks. After gathering a loose pass, Hooper found himself in space and charged forward, refusing to be brought down. He bounced off tackles, powered through defenders, and attempted a solo run. Despite his determination, New Zealand's defence held firm. Hooper was eventually locked in and grounded, denying Australia a much-needed breakthrough. From fumbles to knock-ons, these 10 worst moments show just how fine the margins are in rugby. The Wallabies have had their fair share of heartbreak, but with a new season on the horizon, there's always hope for redemption. Do you think they can come back from these horrible fails and reclaim their place among rugby's elite? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more rugby content.